Scott Eblin is a leadership expert, global speaker, best-selling author, and executive coach. Actually, Scott and I, in a previous lifetime, did several things together: webcasts, podcasts, and whatnot. I remember the last time we had any really serious conversation, he was in a very heavy sort of mindfulness mode. You know what I mean? Not that anyone ever leaves that, but we're in a different place now. Scott, it's so good to see you again. It's been a while.
Great to see you, Dave. It's nice to see you and hear your voice and the whole experience. Thank you.
And you're out on the West Coast?
I'm in Los Angeles, right?
Um,
Sheltering in place.
okay. Yeah. Well, LA. Okay. Well, there's civilization out there. You're okay. You're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I noticed on your website you have this new blog posting, and then the title of it is basically "Welcome to Phase Two." You know,
Mm,
okay. I'm sorry, the beginning of Phase Two.
beginning of phase two, right?
Okay, walk me through
What is it?
what is Phase Two.
Well, let me start with what phase one was. Phase one, beginning in March for most people in the United States and most businesses in the United States, was what I am now referring to as the reinvention phase. Is like, how do we reinvent our processes to keep the work going and keep people engaged and employed as much as we can? And how do we do this at home with our kids doing their schooling online? And just a lot of reinvention over the last 8 weeks. I think we have, for the most part, figured out that
Hmm.
at this point, and that's the end of phase one. Phase two is what I'm thinking of as the reimagining phase.
Hmm.
And it's not the new normal, it's just imagining what the new normal might look like
Hmm.
and what do we begin to do now to get ready for that. So there are shifts I think that leaders can make. Like one of the big shifts is if your agendas have mainly been to do kind of agendas up until now,
Hmm.
start sprinkling in some what if agendas. What if we were going to do it completely differently? What if this never came back? What
Hmm.
if?
Hmm.
How would we do it? Right.
Hmm.
And start blue skying it a little bit. That's going to set you up for phase three, which is whatever the new normal is. And really is inspired by work that was done years ago by William Bridges,
Hmm.
who is no longer with us, but was the author of a terrific book called Managing Transitions.
Hmm.
And he makes the point that before anything new can begin, like the new normal, something else has to end, which
Hmm.
was everything pre-pandemic. And in the middle, between the beginning and the ending, or the ending and the beginning in his language, is what I'm saying is phase two, what he called the neutral zone,
Hmm.
where the rules aren't clear
Hmm.
and it's all in flux. And
Hmm.
so I think we were really filling our time up with a lot of to-dos in their reinvention phase of the
Hmm.
pandemic, trying to keep it together and keep it running. And now I think we're kind of backing off that a little bit to say,
Hmm.
okay, what are we going to do next? What if,
Hmm.
reimagining how we're going to operate in the long-term future.
Well, given that that is the way you've painted or sketched this out, I mean, do you have any advice to leaders trying to sustain engagement after the novelty of some of this Zoom and virtual stuff first hit? When it first hit, we were all kind of like, okay, sure, engagement. I got a lot to,
Yeah.
but that novelty has kind of worn a little thin, hasn't it? So,
Yeah.
what do we do about engagement?
I think, yeah. So, yeah, I hear her all the time. If I have to do one more Zoom meeting, not this one, if I have to do one more Zoom
Oh my
meeting,
God.
I'm going to puke, right? And so that's actually one thing you can do is mix it up a little bit, just on a tactical basis, mix up the ways you engage. And, it's still okay to make a phone call once in a while. Not everything has to be video, but
Hmm.
kind of more strategically, I think, and I talk about this in the post you referenced, um, leaders don't have to have all the answers. And leaders are not in a position to have all the answers, especially now where everything is up in the air and
Hmm.
everything's like the table's been flipped over. And so I think one way to keep people engaged is to actually engage them
Hmm.
in the future conversation and not just all the to-dos and trying to keep them happy with whatever's on their plate already. But what are you seeing out there?
Hmm.
What do you think it's going to be? Can we set up a little experiment over here and run a test case so we can do some test and learn kind of
Kind of like innovate on the fly,
exactly. It's what Eric Ries would call the minimum viable product.
Hmm.
Can we run a little test over here and see what we can learn and iterate, and
Hmm.
we'll get 5% better,
Hmm.
or we'll learn 5% more every time we do it, and
Hmm.
eventually we'll have 30 or 40 or 50%
Hmm.
better or
Sure.
more knowledge about what it's going to be. But we're going to get there incrementally.
Hmm.
And I think getting people engaged in that incremental learning
Hmm.
together collectively and not just waiting on top leadership to come down with,
Right.
here's the answer. I know
Yeah.
you've been waiting on it. Here's the answer.
Right.
No, it's get them engaged in creating the
Sure.
answers.
And my final question to you is the question I ask everybody, Scott, and that's what lessons are we learning now that we must not forget?
Hmm. Wow, that's such a simple but deep question. Um, you know, it's funny. I was on a call earlier this morning with a pretty well known person in the leadership coaching and development industry, a very well known person, who asked the question via Zoom in the Brady Bunch mode.
Hmm.
Raise your hand if you've said lately, I've realized I don't need all this stuff, and everybody raised their hand, including me. And he said, okay, great. All that stuff you don't need, that's the global economy. and so there's kind of a good news, bad news
Yeah.
aspect of that, right? I
Sure.
mean, I think a lot of us are learning that, like I actually didn't need to get on an airplane every week. But I kind of got a lot of positive reinforcement from getting on an airplane
Sure.
and going to see people or giving a speech or whatever. And I'm learning that I can do without that,
Hmm.
and that there are other ways to engage and connect. I think a lot of the people I'm talking to are learning, like, I actually like my family, and I'm enjoying being with my spouse or my
Hmm.
partner and my kids, and I actually miss the ones I'm not with.
Hmm.
And I think it's going to get us what do we don't want to forget from this is how much human connection matters.
Great. That's
And
excellent.
that's where I leave it.
That's fantastic. It's so great to see you again. Maybe at
Thank you
some
for
point. No,
being seen. Yeah, thank
no.
you.
And maybe at some point we could revisit topics of this, and maybe when we enter phase three, you could give us an up.
Yeah, who knows when that will be, but when we know it's here, we'll get back together.
All
All
right.
right.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, Dave. Great to see you.